you
Are
go.
you starting with me sharing my screen?
Yes, starting with you sharing your screen. So, hey, welcome to the live stream today. It's going to be a really big one. I'm Nicola and I'm joined here with Teresa.
Hi, everybody. Happy trading.
Yeah. Hey, if you are new to Conscious Crypto Traders, we're all about giving technical analysis tutorials, but we're very heavy on scenario trading and strategy. So we're teaching you those as we're doing our live technical analysis. So if you're interested in that, you're interested in learning how to trade with the moon phases and astrology, as well as other scenarios that affect price action, we would love your subscription. Please hit the subscribe button, click all, and or click the bell and then all, so that you get notified when we upload. We go live at least once a week, every Wednesday. Sometimes we do impromptu lives, and we upload tutorial videos every single day. So you're going to want to get in on that. And we'd love you to like this live stream because we've got a big one for you. We're doing TA, technical analysis, on Bitcoin, Ethereum, if we've got time, XRP. But today I want to look at Polkadot because it's about to take off, Teresa. But Teresa's going to start with a big overall. Thank you, Russ. It's great to see you here. Kelly, always good to see you. And Bitcoin in Arabic. Wow, that's amazing.
Nice. Type in the chat for us where you're calling in from too. It's always fun for us to see. We've got people from all over the world on these calls. We are, of course, Nicola and I are neighbors. We live here in Costa Rica together. And we use all proceeds from this channel and the events we do to help pave roads and do other infrastructure projects here in our community. So thank you, all of those of you who've supported our channel. We really appreciate it. So let's zoom out. So one of the things we find is really useful for all traders if we understand what's happening at a macro level. So I want to talk to you guys about the 21-week moving average right now, because this is one of the dominant indicators people in the Bitcoin space use to talk about whether we're in the bull cycle or whether we're trading sideways or in a bear cycle. And I've got the Bitcoin index up right now, which is basically, this is data pulled from all of the exchanges that feed the index. I think the majority of large exchanges are on here. And this goes back to the beginning of time for Bitcoin, okay? And so if you see, whenever we have these bull cycles on, the price of Bitcoin tends to bounce off this 21-week moving average. When we're in the bear runs, it's not respected quite as solidly. Like you'll see here, sometimes we break above it and go in and around it when we're in a bear cycle. But when we're in a solid bull cycle, we tend to never drop below the 21-week moving average. Okay, so a lot of people are focusing on this as a macro level indicator because that when we had that big head and shoulders back in the spring, we dipped below the 21-week moving average. A lot of people are using that as an indicator that the bear run might be on now, right? And then we came above it, and in this last major dip, it looked like we were bouncing off it. Everybody took that as a good sign that now we're in the super cycle. We're back in the bear run. But look what's happened in the last 2 weeks. I think it's important to pay attention to this. Last week's weekly candle dipped below the 21 moving average. And the candle this week looks like it's bouncing below it. Now, the week's not over. We still have till Sunday. We might go back up above it again. But to me, 2 weeks in a row that are now piercing the 21 moving average, that's worth paying attention to. That might mean we're in for more sideways action and the bull run is not back on. It's an important thing to keep in mind, right? Now, that doesn't mean we won't still get upward action. Don't hear that in what I'm saying. It might also mean that as an indicator, the 21-week moving average is no longer valid, right? One of the things Willie Woo's been talking about a lot, and he's one of the most solid technical analysts in the Bitcoin space, is that this 4-year cycle that we've historically seen in Bitcoin, where we had these, every time we got a change in the miner's hash rate, that would precipitate, the halving, and then we'd get this 4-year cycle. But up until this point, somewhere back last spring, the Bitcoin miners were the dominant holders of Bitcoin. So anything that was happening with the mining community really had a massive level impact on Bitcoin. And then somewhere in this period here, more and more commercial buyers started coming into the Bitcoin space. So now the miners no longer represent the dominant holders of Bitcoin. Last time I heard statistics, I heard that it was below 30%. I don't know what the current statistics are, but they're no longer in control of the price action of Bitcoin, which means the 4-year cycle may be either over or now becoming very weak. So what does that mean for the 21-week moving average? We're not sure. That's the honest to God truth, because this change from the miners being the dominant holders now is a game changer that nobody's quite sure what the new game is. This is a really important thing to keep in mind. So this might just be a minor anomaly. It might be indicative of what Willy Woo talks about, where we're just going to see a drunken wobble upward, and this may no longer be the line that Bitcoin bounces off of. Or it could mean, no, we're in for a lot of sideways action or bearish action in Bitcoin, and the bull run is not back on. So the reason I'm telling you this is it's important to know when there's a big question mark in the market, because the traders that make the most money always keep in mind what's going on at the macro level, because that dictates like whether you hold open multi-day trades, whether you're trading a short-term horizon or a longer-term horizon. It dictates a lot of that decision-making and how you view probabilities and risk.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Nicola.
No.
You still want my screen up?
Yes,
Sorry.
I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Let me just turn my light on too. I can see that my face is in shadow. Yeah. Okay, so look at that. On the weekly, that's an imperfect M, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a signal that we could go down further. Can you put a target on that for me? If you draw the baseline of the M.
So if we take, let me just think about this. If we take the M, would probably be from here. So I've got other ones. Yeah. Would you take it right down to here?
I would take it down to there. Yeah.
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 So it's not a true M, because this doesn't join, but that doesn't mean it's not tradable. It's just M's have a higher probability of meeting their target if the middle part of the M comes right down to the support line. Doesn't mean it's not an M. It just means its probability of hitting the target is lower when it's like that. So that would be a significant lower target, right?
Yeah, that would break with pattern. That would mean that we would go all the way down under last bull cycles high, now, which is what I've been saying is not possible. What I wanted to say about this, Teresa, is that we've got to watch out for it and just be aware of it. And if it's going to play out, we'll break below it, come back up, retest that resistance as support, come back down, and then go below the first breakout candle run that we had. It's not perfect also because the top is higher than the first. Like the first mound of the M is lower than the second one.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, for an M pattern, your second mound, you want to come down lower. So it's it's signifying we're going lower.
Yeah. So in other words, this part of the M would be higher than this part of the M. Both that and the middle of the M hitting the support line would be indicators that we have a higher probability of breaking down and hitting the target. But this is still an M, so we could still break down. That's the point, right? So in other words, if we break down, highly unlikely we'll hit that target. I think it's highly unlikely we'd hit in the 14,000 to 15,000. But we could be going down, right? Yeah. And so that becomes an opportunity to make money. But that having said, there's not a lot of strong indicators that say, like normally you'd be seeing divergences in the stochastics RSI or divergences in the regular RSI if we were about to do a strong move downward. We're not seeing that. We're seeing some slight divergences on the hourly and the daily. My gut is saying a big move is coming, but not likely in the next few days. That's my gut. But I think Nicola might have a different read on that because she follows different indicators than me. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oops. There we go. This is Bitcoin on the weekly on my chart with the moon phases. And what I wanted to show you was these lines here. I'm going to turn them pink so you can see it so that we know that this is a bigger pattern. These are the support and resistance lines that we've got. And I would really love for us to create a Bart Simpson and come all the way back up to about 67,000. I'm going to show you in a moment, and then we'll look at some trading ideas for you. But what we're just going to need to get realistic. And like, I was really, really bullish, super, super bullish. But as soon as this happened here, I just went, whoa, we got to get realistic. And I'm going to be talking a lot about this today in the free masterclass that I've got on the secrets to crypto trading and passive income with crypto. The link for that is in the description and at the top of the chat. So if you haven't registered for that, make sure you click on that link right now and get registered. And we're going to have a lot more time to go deeper into it. But
yeah, and guys, if the bull run is not solidly on, you need to up your trading skills. So invest the time and go on that webinar. Like, we're really doing this because we're deeply committed to you getting to a higher level of skill. And totally, Nicola's amazing at how she mentors on that.
Thank you. So, but what I want to point out is this is a continuation triangle, which means that we are in a pattern that is bullish, that is more likely to continue to the upside. So that's our saving grace. We had to show you that we're in a little bit of danger with that, with that 21-day moving average on the weekly. But at the same time, we're inside of a bullish pattern and we're right up against the resistance. So over the next couple of days, if we don't break out of this resistance, it remains possible that we come back down and retest the support line. And the further along we go, the higher that support line is. So right now it's sitting at around, like another dip would take us to around 400,000, maybe 39,500, something like that. So the longer we go without dumping down, the higher that support line is going to be. And the breakout, and this is what's really interesting, again, I'm going to be talking about that in today's masterclass. The breakout pinnacle is at the end of January through to the second week in March. Right? So it is possible we stick around here for a couple of months and go up. Now, the sentiment is that that is not what we're going to do, because if we have a look at this line here, we are in an ascending channel. So if we take this here and we're at, what's going on? Right, we're in an ascending channel, and let me turn that to yellow so we can distinguish that. And we're at the bottom of that channel getting ready to head back up. See that? Might come back down to 42,900 and then go back up for that channel. Let me just take that out because that's, see, here we are. So in the next couple of days, we want to watch, are we going to break out of this channel here, this triangle, and then create a higher high? Or are we going to trade in here for a little while longer and go up? Now, generally speaking, from new moon to full moon, we've just had the new moon on the 4th and the full moon is on the 19th. Generally speaking, we do sort of see there's a new moon, full moon, we go down, new moon, full moon, we go down, new moon, full moon, we go down, right? And then from full moon to new moon, we have a little bit of upward price action. Not always, but it's a fairly consistent pattern 98% of the time. So we're heading from new moon to full moon, which means that further downward price action is possible, but not necessary. And I don't mean to confuse you, because everything's going to come to a head when we talk about risk management on your trades right now, because we're teetering on the brink of going one way or the other, right? So what we do short term, if you're day trading, obviously you look at the trend and then you come into the shorter term time frame. And I had said this in the Discord server yesterday, and I warned everybody in our Discord server at Conscious Crypto, and I did it again this morning, that on the 4 hourly, we could have a Bart Simpson, an inverse Bart Simpson. A Bart Simpson literally looks like Bart Simpson's head. We drop down, we trade sideways. Everybody was looking at this as a bear flag, but we've gone beyond the time it should have broken to the downside for a bear flag. we're trading sideways. And in this configuration, this often means that we're going to get a sudden move to the upside, and it will come to the top, just above or just below where we dumped. So around 56,800. That's a possibility, right? So I'm looking at that. So now what I want to do is I want to look at the CM Williams VIX fix. There's no buy signal here on the 4 hourly. I want to bring in Ichimoku and see if Ichimoku is going to tell us something. And we've still got some resistance here on the 4 hourly. But when we come down into the 1 hour, this is where I'm a little bit more optimistic. When we come in on the 1 hour, we have a potential bull flag forming, which depending on where we're going to break out is going to take us to the top of the resistance or just above the resistance of that symmetrical triangle I showed you with the pink red lines, and almost to the top of the ascending line of the wedge, the rising wedge that we're in. So that's what we want to watch out for. So in terms of trade ideas, this is the worst bull flag to trade, in my opinion. Teresa, would you agree with me? Because it's sloping down, so it could easily turn into a continued downward motion. And it's a channel, it's a descending channel. So it's going to go down before it comes back up again.
Yeah, I've seen bull flags that keep going down till they're below the entry point that the flag started at.
Yeah, which invalidates it as a bull flag,
yeah,
and then validates it as a downward channel.
Yeah.
So this is what we're watching. So if you're trading a bull flag like this is what you've got to be aware of. We break out. We want a retracement. Now, because this is a downward sloping support line, the retracement could be lower than the breakout. So it's not always a good idea to trade the breakout. It's better to trade the confirmed breakout if you don't want the risk of this just keeping on going down, and down, and then you're in a losing trade for, hoping it's going to go back up again. So that's kind of it. Does that make sense? Hey, from San Francisco.
Yeah,
cool. Great.
Absolutely. And one other thing to consider, especially if you're considering trading this bull flag, can you go back to the last view where you were showing the big pennant, Nicola?
On the 4 hourly?
Yeah, because another way to consider that is you had the big triangle drawn in there. I think it might have been the daily.
That's the weekly.
Or that's the weekly, on the weekly. Another way you could consider that is the price action that went above the downward support could be considered a fake out or failed move.
Yeah.
If you're reading Thomas Polkowski's book on chart patterns, that could also be considered, he calls it a busted pattern. In other words, there was a breakout, but the breakout didn't hit the target we would expect it to hit, right? And whenever we have that scenario in the price action, the odds of it at least hitting the bottom of the pattern are significantly greater, and there is an increased odds that we might break downward. My gut is telling me the downward is a lower probability in this case because there's too many upward indicators. I do think Nicola is solid on saying we're in a reverse Bart-Simpson, but I do think it's highly probable that we might hit the bottom of that support line again. So if you're putting in cheeky buy orders, that support line would be a good place to put that's a Nicola Gracism, I know, but I love it as a trading term. If you're putting in your cheeky buy orders, that support line would be a good place to be looking for those buy orders, because we could see downward action down to that support line again, which is still in the 40s before we see a solid upward move, right?
Yeah.
So that is a possibility. And certainly I have cheeky buy orders down at that level.
Yeah, I'm going to be teaching all about cheeky buy orders and showing you behind the scenes on that in the masterclass today. Teresa, we had a question from somebody. Let's have a look. Is going back to the price models of the previous time, such as going back to what happened in previous years, is it from the science of trading? I don't understand that question. Do you?
I'm not. So in general, in trading, like no matter what books you read, no matter what courses you'll take, you'll hear the notion that history doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme, right? So we tend to look to past price action as an indicator of what we can expect in future, but that doesn't mean that's always true, right? And in this space, one of the dominant things people talk about in the crypto space is this 4-year cycle for Bitcoin, right? And one of the reasons we're talking about that is we want you guys to be aware that the 4-year cycle might be over. And I think at a macro level, it's really important to understand that because you trade differently. One of the things we're committed to talking about a lot, and Nicola does a lot of work on this on her calls and in Crypto Ninjas, is the whole mindset. And part of mindset is you've got to be able to eliminate your bias toward an asset. And so when we look at history as an indication of whether or not we anticipate history repeating, it's important to look at those macro level forces that might be indicating, maybe we aren't going to see the normal pattern here because we've got a lot of black swan events going on right now. At an extremely macro level, the whole pandemic is a major black swan event, but then we're also getting a number of black swan events within that. Black swan events just mean, where we get major forces at play that might cause major market movements. And in hindsight, they were predictable, but in foresight, we didn't always know whether they were coming.
Yeah. And just to clarify what you mean by when you say the 4-year cycle might be over, we're talking about the 4-year very clearly defined cycle that we've had for Bitcoin in the past that has had approximately 2 years of price going down, 2 years of price going up, right? Defined by the halving, right? We're still going to have a halving because that's factored into Bitcoin, but we might be blurring the lines around the 2 years up, 2 years down, approximately, right? We had a comment about the monthly, about how we've come up above with the resistance. He's got a resistance line at 57. I'm going to bring resistance lines in earlier. But again, I had a fake out. Now, Teresa, because this wick went all the way down to almost the bottom of this line, I think that is the bottom. And I think we would trade around the top here. And maybe if we come back down again, we would only ever touch this yellow ascending line, not the actual pink one, but who knows? We'll just obviously we'll have to wait and see. So let's look at the trade setup. Let's look at the 1 hour. If you're day trading, you look at the 1 hour after you know the macro, so you know what the general trend is. We want to watch what's going on here in this bull flag. Now, because the Ichimoku is green ahead of us, nothing but green, and there's no red at the end of the green, this is signifying upward action over the next 24 hours, potentially, right? Because sometimes we can cut through the green cloud. But we're coming out of resistance. We're heading into that. The lagging span, though, is still in resistance, right? We want to see this, the lagging span on the Ichimoku cloud, which is here. We want to see that above. And then we know that it's safe to enter along. We also want to make sure the green conversion line is above the red baseline, which it is. So the last thing we're looking for to go, yes, we've flipped bullish, is for the lagging span to come above the Ichimoku cloud. And for all of you who don't have the Ichimoku cloud on your trading view charts, we use cracking cryptocurrency Ichimoku because the settings are for the Ichimoku cloud for cryptocurrency. This was a inverse Bart Simpson, a narrow one at that, like a skinny one. This also, to me, is looking like a cup and handle.
Yeah,
right?
I would
So
agree with that.
We have more. Yeah, we have. So I think that bear flag's out of the market. And when you look at, shorts and longs going in, there's a lot of indecision in the market. So this, if we break out, depending on where we break out, we are heading to the top resistance. Now, the top resistance here is around 52,800 by the time we get up there. And then the pink resistance that we break out of is at around 52,000. So these are areas that we could reverse back down. So watch out for that in terms of your targets for if you enter the long. But I'm just waiting for this. I'm already in a long from down way back, but we want to get this up here in terms of topping up to the trade. And look at this. We've got 1, 2, 3 more hours to go before we start inclining on a potential bullish nature. So I would look at that. In terms of the likelihood to retest the resistance line at 57,700, I don't know what, I haven't seen your charting, so I don't know what you're referring to, but I'm going to bring support and resistance lines in for the overall market here on the 4-hourly to get those bigger time frames. And 57,652 is what that resistance line is, and that is consistent with an inverse Bart-Simpson.
Yeah.
Right. If we shoot up over the period of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 hours, and we just pump up and we hit that resistance line, that's the inverse Bart-Simpson that we're talking about, in which case we would get a bit of a retracement and then continue on to the upside potentially.
Yeah, that's a solid call.
Yeah.
Solid call.
And I've been calling all the Bart-Simpsons that I put warnings on, and whenever I've done a warning on the channel and I've done a warning in our Discord server about the Bart-Simpsons, 100% of the time they've played out. So you don't take that to the bank. Just be ready to move when it moves, right? Have your strategy in place and get ready to move, because if this moves out of this pattern, it's going to move pretty fast. So that is Bitcoin. Ethereum is more bullish, in my opinion. Ethereum, this channel here, this green channel, we've been trading in. We've dropped under and gone above it, but we've pretty much been in this channel for a while this time round before the dip. So it's pretty established resistance. And again, we're right up at resistance line. So we need more confidence in the market to get up and over this resistance, because we are at major resistance levels. Wouldn't you agree, Teresa?
Yeah, I would. And like, we're seeing some divergences between the RSI and the stochastics on Ethereum, but a lot of them are very weak divergences, which suggests to me a move is probably coming, but it might not be imminent. So, we might see a little more play out of this action before we see the solid move, but that's a tough one to call. I love to see really strong divergences when I'm going to place a trade that especially if I'm using leverage. Yeah. And right now these divergences are a bit weak, right? Yeah. And on the hourly, we've got both bearish and bullish divergences on the stochastic RSI, not on the regular RSI, but on the stochastic. So we could say the bullish has already played out, is possible, and the bearish may come to play. So it'll be interesting. Like, as soon as the divergence is in the peaks, the highs, it means it's a bearish divergence. If the divergence is in the lows, then it's bullish. And we've already seen some upward price action. They're both fairly weak divergences, though, so it's hard to say what those mean as indicators in isolation. Yeah,
we're right up against the resistance, guys, for Ethereum. Look at this. We're right up. We got resistance, and then we got a dump back down because we didn't break it. And we're doing the same thing here again. So we could dump back down and create a higher low. And it's not a dump, it's just kind of like a normal retracement. But look at this, we've got a W here, a big W here, and that target is 4,814 or more, depending on where we break out. Obviously, the further along that we break out, the higher that price is going to go, right? Then we've got this little W here, and where Teresa was saying the divergence is, see, here's the bearish divergence, lower on the RSI, higher on price action. That's actually the neckline of the next W, and that target is around. Let me do that. Let me do 4633 is potential. There are some people that would call that the W, but I have seen a lot of W's play out with higher targets, so I do that where it actually comes in. Then we've got,
sorry.
yep.
Important to remember with W's that they have a much higher probability of hitting their price target if the first V in the W is lower than the second V in the W. So in this case, we'd call this a weak W because the first V in this W is higher than the second V. And we've got a bearish, yeah. So the price
isn't a weak W. This W is a strong W because it's higher.
Sorry, the one on the left is strong. The little W on the right is the weak one. Okay. Because the left part of the W, the one that Nicola was just pointing out, is higher than the right part of the W, right?
Yeah.
And we've got a bearish divergence both on the RSI and the stochastics. So personally, this isn't a W I would trade because even though there is a pattern saying we might break up, for me, when the other indicators are counter to where the move should go, I personally, I believe patience is a big part of making more money. So that's one I would pass on. Now that having said, you got to decide your own risk tolerances, but because of those two things, I consider that too weak a pattern to trade.
Absolutely. And we're at resistance. You don't enter longs at resistance. You enter longs, as we've confirmed, moving away from a support line. And we're right up against resistance. So the long would be breakout above 44.20, come back down to retest it as support, bounce off of it, come back up and above, and you enter above where the first breakout happened, right? With volume, making sure there's volume, because if there's no volume, it could easily roll over and go south on you. So that's what you're waiting for if you're not in a long. Would you short this? I'm not shorting this market because every single short, if you don't catch these drops here, if you're not skilled enough to catch these drops, a lot of people start shorting right here because they think we're going lower, and they have reversed on people, and there have been billions of dollars lost in value of the coin. So that's, I'm not shorting. If you happen to catch it, generally speaking, a short is the opposite. You break down, you come back up, retest support as resistance, come back down and enter below where we originally broke out of, making sure there's a lot of red candles and there's volume coming in to keep pushing the price down, in which case we could come back down to the bottom of this upward sloping trend to create a higher low at 41.21 approximately. Just depends on when we're breaking down, or we could come all the way back down to retest 3985. That's if you are shorting. What do we see on Gala? I'm going to look at Gala because that's a really good metaverse project, and we're totally into metaverse. So just briefly on XRP and Sand, and then I'll look at Gala since we're doing that metaverse thing. This is a really messy chart because I didn't have time to figure it out. This is a bull flag that I really like trading because we're going up. Like the price, it's not sloping
almost a
down.
bull pennant, which is a really solid pattern to trade.
Yeah, would you call that a pennant? Would you? You would go like that?
If you join the wicks, I mean, you could call it either. It's always semantics whether you call it that. But if you join the wicks, it's more of a pennant than a flag, which is a pretty solid pattern to trade. They're slightly more reliable pattern than a flag.
Yeah. So I am in this trade, and this is going to take us up to 95 cents. Whoop-de-whoop. It's like a big move, and we're only going to get to 95 cents. Yeah. But we've got quite a bit of trading sideways action here on the Ichimoku potentially. And we're also peaking out on the trend. I've got my trends in here. Trends. Mm-hmm. You know, the trends are, so we might actually come back down, in which case, if we do come back down, this may not be a pennant anymore. It may flatten out and become a bull flag and come back down to the resistance at 86.32. And obviously, you know, if we trade sideways for a long time, this is always the danger of becoming a Bart Simpson. But bottom line is with Ethereum, that's what we are not with Ethereum, with XRP, that's what we're looking at right now. Same thing, guys.
Sorry. I want to just get a point in before you switch coins, but sorry, Nicola, I didn't mean to overspeak you.
Yeah, I'm not switching coins yet.
Okay.
It's same thing applies, right? Same thing applies. It doesn't matter what the coin is. If you're trading the breakout, you let it confirm and then come back up, except for XRP. With XRP, it bolts. Look at this. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Did not come back and confirm anything, right? Usain Bolt was one of my favorite sprinters.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what were you wanting to say?
Just pay attention on XRP though, and I'm just going to flip to my screen because I've already got it drawn on.
Okay, cool.
On the stochastic RSI, we have a divergence, which is bearish, right? If now we could say though that this peak hasn't played out yet, so the stochastics looks like it's turning here, but it might not. It could continue up, in which case we don't have a divergence. But if it does turn around here, then we've got a bearish divergence, which could signal that this pennant won't play out. So personally, I'm waiting to see if this turns around. The divergence isn't played out in the regular RSI though, so that's good to know. So usually it's a stronger divergence if you're seeing it in both RSIs.
Yeah.
So just something to point out. I'm waiting and watching what happens with this. Before I would trade that. Well, I've already got a trade open, but whether or not I would add to it. So just something to pay attention to.
Yeah. And when that happens, when you see those bearish divergences, you see that we're hitting resistance. Ooh, what's that?
Nicola's making money.
What is that? Oh, it's Ethereum's gone to 43.70. Let's have a look at that.
Nice.
It's heading down.
Okay.
So yeah, we see how we're hitting resistance. When I start seeing this hitting resistance, and then it's going sideways, which means it could drop down a little bit. This is a good time to take some profit out of the table if you were in this trade from the beginning, so that you don't lose the profit that you've gained. And I think that's a really important strategy for you to consider in your trading, because we're in this volatile market. When we're doing these U-turns, you keep the trade open for days, but you don't take profit out of the table before we reverse. So that's a lost opportunity. Sand has a very, very interesting pattern playing out, and it's got a red Ichimoku cloud on the 4 hourly ahead of us, which I'm a bit worried about. And on the 1 hour, we've got the green. So what does that mean? Well, often when you see that, when you see the red Ichimoku cloud out ahead of us on the 4 hour, but on the 1 hour, we've got green ahead of us, which is here, that's an indication that we might get a sizable pump and then a sizable dump. And in this instance, we've got, we have a very nice defined triangle. Let me take Ichimoku out here so you can see it. But we've come into it from the downside. Look, we came up and we came down into this. So this is often a continuation pattern to the downside. However, this is what you've got to be aware of with metaverse coins. They're breaking with traditional TA. What we would traditionally think would happen in TA, it's like, that's not what these metaverse coins are doing.
Yeah, so they don't have enough market cap to be really reliable on the patterns. That's always really important to remember. Anytime you're trading a small market cap coin, the patterns may not apply, or the regular probabilities of how patterns break out may not apply. Yeah.
And in this instance, look at this. We've got a nice cup and handle. This is absolutely perfect. So it looks like we're going to break to the upside. So statistically speaking, symmetrical triangles that we've come into from the upside coming down into it, break to the downside. What is it? Is it 80-20? 80% of the time, 20% of the time it breaks to the upside. Now, in this instance, with the Ichimoku cloud where it is, this is looking like we're about to flip bullish. And we've got this cup and handle, and the candle there is green at the moment, looking like it's heading up to actually break the neckline of the cup and handle. So that is really awesome. And then Gala was the one that that we just got asked on from our man who teaches crypto in Arabic, which I think is really awesome.
Very cool. Yeah, big shout out on that.
Means that, you know, people like you and me and all of us who are just, you know, the normal average day people, not participating in all the nonsense noise out there in the media, are making money. right? Making life-changing wealth. Let's have a look at this. Well, this is a bullish pattern that we've broken out of. Look at that. We've got a down. Man, look at that wick. Holy crap.
Yeah. Holy cow. There's opportunities to make money when you see a coin that volatile.
Totally.
Yeah, that's nice.
So look, we've got a downward channel. We've broken out of it, come back down, retested. So now we're looking at like 47.9 is probably a good entry point if you're actually trading this. If you're spot trading this is a good time to actually get in, because we go to the top of where the first candle hits, which would take us to 53.3335 or something like that. Let's have a look at the bigger time frame, and let's go out to the monthly and find out. Oh no, we can't, because this is a new coin, so we're gonna have to go to 5 days. Wow, look at that. Yeah, so it came on, and just lots of positive news here. People loving it. New moon happened. We got a big dump on the new moon back then on the daily. Yeah, look on the daily, so that's the first target. Look at that on the daily, Teresa, there's an even bigger downward channel.
Yeah.
So unless some really bad news happens for this coin and people start taking their money out of it, this is a bullish pattern. So the second target is going to be up at around 77 cents. Is it possible to go back to test the bottom of the rebound that occurred? If possible, what is the scenario? Good for you, Kelly. Yeah. So, okay. So I think what you're talking about is, will we come back down and test the channel? So I don't know what your name is, honey, because you don't have you Bitcoin in Arabic. I'm just going to call you Bitcoin in Arabic. Bic. How's that? Bitcoin in Arabic. Bic. What you're going to want to watch for is that we have actually broken out and confirmed the breakout. The Ichimoku cloud is looking bullish. So what you want to watch out for, you want to put in your support and resistance lines, which is, no, actually 4 EMA. We haven't done 4 EMA for a while, right? 4 EMA, and you want to look for any twists on the shorter time frame. At the moment, this blue line is starting to come up. And whenever we've got blue, yellow, green, red, let me just show you the settings. Change length 1 to 8, leave the rest as it is, come into style. You've got blue, green, yellow, red. See, when we've got stacked on top, blue, green, yellow, red, bullish. When it's the reverse, red, yellow, green, blue, bearish. When we start getting crossover, we're starting to see trend changes. And you need to look at them on several different time frames. So here's an example, right? We crossed over here where blue went over to the top of the red, right? And then we started getting the stacking, right? And then boom, we got a pump. And then we got a crossover here again. Red was on top this time, and we started getting a dump. So now the blue is coming up. So this is looking bullish to me. Can we come back down? Well, the scenario would be that, we lose volume, and there isn't a lot of volume in trading this coin at the moment. So it might be a slow rise up and then go up. Oh, look, yeah. So
I would say what I'd be looking for there is, if this becomes a busted pattern, like, because we've had a clear breakout of the channel, if it moves back into the channel, I would say you have high probability of the channel breaking down and hitting that lower support. So that would be the indicator I'd be looking for. In fact, we'd probably break below the channel and come all the way back down to the lowest support line there in the bigger pattern, if that happens. But I'm with Nicola. There's a lot of things that are looking slightly more bullish here. So I wouldn't trade that without that confirmation.
Yeah, and look at that. I think that, let's just get Ichimoku out so we can clean it up a bit. If we follow this pink line, this is an ascending. Just get some room over here so you can see. Sorry, this is a symmetrical triangle. Again, we've come into it from the downside, so more likely to break to the downside than the upside. But this is metaverse, and metaverse is defying the odds. So it might be a 20% break to the upside. We'll see. So what could happen is we come up and and get all the way up to the top on this channel, and then come back down and then ultimately break out towards the middle of December. Remember, guys, the full moon is on the 19th, and full moons usually see the bottom of the movement that we're at, and we get a reverse to the upside the day before, the day of, or the day after. So mark the 19th of December on your calendar, and then make sure that you set alarms for 2 days before, so you're in the alert phase with your trading, and you put in proper risk management, which is don't get too stupid with the huge leverage and huge positions unless it's taking off and everything is a go. Come in a little bit more conservatively and get in those stop losses, and then your cheeky buy orders under you for any possible retracement.
And more importantly,
great.
Mark your calendar for Nicola's webinar and just go to her webinar, because you need the more advanced TA, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, okay, cool. Great. So that's what's going on here with Gala. Now, Teresa, remember, we wanted to talk a little bit about risk management and around the times of all of these black swan events that people are saying. Like, there was supposed to be a black swan event on the 4th of the 4th of December, which coincided with a lunar eclipse new moon. So we knew there was going to be something dramatic that day, and it ended up being the stock market feeling very uncertain about the Omicron variant, right? That was our black swan event. Now the 13th of December is another date. And another one that's floating around is the 21st of December, and also the 28th of December. So talk to us, Teresa, a little bit about risk management with these black swan events, because you don't want to get scared and not make money during the times when the market's actually pumping, right?
Yeah, exactly. And December is usually a strong month for Bitcoin, but these global macro scale economic factors may put a suppression on that. Like, we just don't know what we're in for in December here, right? But that having said, when we see these really volatile markets, when we see black swan events, these are awesome opportunities to make money. You just got to have your wits about you, right? This is where you really need to up the game on your trading skills, because if you're live on the charts and you see one of these happening, you need to have practiced in your head how to trade them, right?
Totally.
And you need
to react to my free webinar.
so guys, invest in yourself. Come to Nicola's webinar. I'm not kidding, because we all need people to learn from. Nicola and I are learning from each other daily. We have other mentors we learn from. There's no one person who's going to teach it all to you. But that said, it's always a good idea to find traders who are smarter than you and learn from them, right? So so make the time to come to Nicola's webinar. I think that would be really awesome.
It is recorded if you can't come to it live, but live means you can ask questions at the end. It's held on Zoom, so it's a little bit more intimate than being on YouTube. And at the end of it, like, I'm going to be showing you behind the scenes of my Ninjas Mastermind group, because we're getting some really great compliments. People are doing really well in their trading, really doing well on their learning, getting more confident in reading the market and placing trades, as well as investing as well, because we do a lot of research and altcoins to invest in and so on and so forth. So I'm going to pull back the curtain, and you're going to get to see that before we do during the masterclass. And again, it's recorded. So just a brief, let's have a look and see what's happened on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Oh, okay. So it's kind of just moseying along. But there you go. You've got your targets. You've got what you need to watch out for. We'll see you next Wednesday live. We may go live before then, so make sure that you're subscribed, click the bell, hit all, so you get notified when we go live. Love to see you over at the Discord channel, where we are posting daily technical analysis and you get to ask questions. So you just go to Discord and then look up Conscious Crypto and you will find us there. Anything else we want to say just before we leave?
I would say until next time, trade consciously.
Trade consciously. See you later, guys. Bye.
Take care. Thanks for joining us.